Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. This is episode 9 of 12 in my 12-week Christmas countdown series for 2023. I have gift packaging to hold a mini bottle of Lanson Rosé Champagne using the Modern Garden bundle. This is a pentagonal box, so it's only got 5 sides, and the lid squashes down to catch the bow on the top. That's the modern label punch that goes with it. So let's run through the materials you need. This is the Modern Garden bundle. It has the modern oval punch to go with it. It is part of the Garden Walk suite on pages 52 to 54 of the September to December mini. I added another stamp set using the sentiment from the Merriest Trees stamp set. I didn't really want a birthday card, and this took up too much space, so if I put the flowers on top it would cover the sentiment. So that's why I brought in the Merriest Trees stamp set as well. The inks I'm using are Poppy Parade, Crush Curry and Garden Green, and last but not least, Balmy Blue. The Real Red and Garden Green 3/8 inch or 1 centimetre ribbon combo pack. So I'm actually using both colours to tone in with the papers. I'm also using the Garden Walk 6x6 Designer Series paper. This one is a little bit more unusual. It has only 8 designs, but there are 6 sheets of each design. So that's one of them, and that's the back. This is the one we're using. So that's sort of more Christmassy. Then you want some scraps of Very Vanilla to punch your label and also to stamp your flowers and the leaves. You also need a scrap of 3 inch by 3 inch Poppy Parade cardstock so you can glue it to the bottom of your box, and some blooming pearls. For the box base you need a piece of cardstock that's been cut at 11 1/4 inches by 8 inches. In metric that will be 21 centimeters by 29.5 centimeters. The metric measurement is actually wider and taller than the imperial measurement. Now if you're in the US and your paper size is 8.5 by 11, you can still make the same box but cut the 8.5 piece down to 8 inches by 11 inches. It just means that the top of your bottle bit here will be shorter. I've taken this sheet and I haven't cut them up yet because I wanted the pattern to continue all the way around the box. Make sure which way up your pattern is. If it's a nondescript pattern then it won't matter which way round you have it. But I want my poinsettias pointing this way, so I've cut off 1/2 inch of the bottom. And this is the way the pattern is going to go, and I want those in 1 inch strips, but I'm not going to cut it yet. I'm going to cut it as I need it when I assemble the bottle, just to make sure that I've got it in the correct order. In order to make sure I had enough of the Designer Series paper to go around the 5 sides, I had to include a matte layer, and this has been cut at 1 1/4 by 5 3/4, so you need 5 pieces of wild wheat, and in metric that's 3.5 by 15.5 centimeters. Then your sheet of paper, Designer Series paper, will be 5.5 by 5 inches. So you cut it in 1 inch by 5.5 inch strips to go on top here. So bring in the scoreboard. I'm going to score on the short side first, and it's each panel is 1.5 inch wide, so you score at 1.5 inches, 3, 4.5, 6 and 7.5. In metric, your cardstock will measure 29.5 by 21 centimeters, 4, 8, 12, 16 and 20. Rotate your cardstock a quarter turn so that the narrow score line is at the bottom, and this time you want to score at 4 centimeters, 20 centimeters, 22 and 24 centimeters. Rotate your cardstock so that the long side is at the top and the narrow score line is at the bottom, and you want to score at 1.5, 7.5, 8.25 and 9. Okay, then where these 3 score lines are, you want to fold on the middle one, then butt it at the top of your scoreboard and you score at 3/4 inches. Just make a mark there. 2.25 inches, 3 3/4 inches, 5.25 inches and 6 3/4 inches. And then you want to continue the score line so that it will straddle the other panel, and you just use that as a guide to extend it across both panels. Now orient your cardstock so that this single score line at the bottom, that is 1.5 inches up from the bottom, is facing you. And you want to cut this little rectangle away and miter the corner here. Then on this, you don't want to cut beyond that first score line here. Just want to cut up. Then with the 1/2 inch score line facing you on the long side, you want to angle this cut here to that first score line, but on the, you skip one, and then on this last score line to the right of this angled cut, you want to cut that straight, and then you cut away the middle. So I'll bend that back so you can see where the tab is. So that one at the top where your bottle lid is, squash lid is, that has to be straight. And then you just snip off that bit there. So now your cardstock will look like this. I'll turn it on its side so you can see all of the cardstock. Now the reason why you've got these middle centre lines is so that you get a guide as to where to cut. So you want to cut through both layers, you fold it in the middle, and you're going to cut to the corner, top left corner, from here, from that middle point up to the top corner. Oh sorry, one step before you do that, you want to cut up. Do not extend beyond this score line, okay? So fold that back so you can see it, and just cut to that score line through both layers. Okay, so now all these have been cut. See? Right, so fold that back and you want to carry on cutting our triangle. So you cut from the center point there up to the top left corner of that little rectangle. Fold that back and just repeat the rest of the little rectangles. The same with the metric. So the halfway mark between the panels here will be 2 centimeters, 6, 10 and 14 and 18. You fold that back and you cut the triangles from the center point to the top left corner. Okay, now reinforce all your score lines. On this triple score line, the first one you want is a mountain fold. The middle one is a valley fold. And the top one is a mountain fold. Now do you see how it works? To put tear and tape just shy of the score line. And you also want tear and tape along the top here. Bring in my designer series paper and I just want to cut a 1-inch strip. So I've glued that onto my mat layer and I start from the end panel and work my way inwards. So I'll speed this up. And then you still have 1 inch left to put on another project. Now that we've got the sides decorated, you can assemble that together and make sure the edge of that is in line with the score line here, and that the top and bottom is also aligned. Pinch it together and do the same with this bit here. Make sure the top marries up with the bottom here and here, and run your finger through there to make sure it's shut. Put your champagne in. Squash that down. Glue the bottom together. Look at where the seam is. That's a seam, so the front of your box will be here. So lift that flat up so you know that that's the last one you glue. Come in from the bottom here. So I've put double-sided tape all across the bottom of the hexagon. Then I'm just going to plonk that on top. Okay. Make sure that's secure. Now I'm just going to use the scissors and cut round the base. And then you have a nice neat bottom. So bring in the punch. And I want to punch out a label and punch out a second in wild wheat. I'm going to fold this in half to see where I need to cut this label in half. Bring in my silicone mat. Now this is the not so nice side, so I'll put the tape on this side, line up my label so that it's in a straight line. Make sure that's in a straight line as well. Next I'm going to stamp my poinsettias and stamp the inside of the flower centres with this spotty stamp. Then I'm going to stamp the greeting and its cluster of snowflakes at the top, and then stamp love and joy in the middle about there. Smudged it, so I shall have to use an embellishment to cover it up. So I'm going to pop some gold pearls on here cover that smudge up. And then I'll fussy cut these leaves and flowers off camera. Just angle your scissors at a 45-degree angle, like so. I'm not going to include that bit at the top. And just cut round it like this. I put a little bit of glue here to cover up the join here, so that the lack of border there, so it wouldn't be so noticeable. Then I put a mini dimensional on top here, make sure it wouldn't fall off, and pop the flower above here like so. And I did the same for this leaf here. There we go. Bring back my bottle. There's the join there, so the front of the box is here. Right, so I'm just going to put a bit of glue directly on there. Centre this here. Keep my hand there until it bonds. I could put it down this way, couldn't I? We can now tie the ribbon. So this is about 2 feet each of the garden green and 2 of the real red. So the reason why you have to cut that bit at a straight edge, I'll bring back my template. You need to cut this at a straight edge and that angled, is because if you cut it at an angle, there's nowhere to grip the cardstock and it keeps on gaping like that. So that's why I had to alter it. This was my prototype and this is the second attempt. So I hope you've enjoyed this project, and leave me a comment, share, or give me a thumbs up if you like it. I'd appreciate it ever so much. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with more inspiration. Bye.